If any of the forms in your application requires users to be able to upload multiple files in one go, you probably want to implement a multiple files upload. In this video, I'll show you how this can be done in OutSystems. So the good news is in OutSystems Forge, there's already a plugin available for this. It's called multiple file upload. The one you're looking at is for reactive applications, and there's another one for traditional ones. So let's go to my Service Studio and start implementing it. As usual, I'm inside a reactive web application. This is my Service Studio. And often we have to associate these files with some records, some main records. Let's say if I have a customer entity, customer, maybe it can have name and email. I'll just leave it there. Rest, I think, you can add more and more fields, and your database design can be much more complex where you can have a number of tables. Now, for adding the reactive file upload, multiple file upload, it's quite straightforward. You can just click on Manage Dependencies. I've already installed the plugin, by the way, so I just have to look for it, multiple. It will show you these two. Basically, you have to go to the CW, which is the common kind of module. Here, there are two variations of this. One is where it does everything for you, automatically the upload part, and second is where it gives you the binary and you can do the upload or deletion by yourself. I'm going to use this one. It's quite, compared to this one, it's slightly easier. Maybe another video, another time for the other one. You also make sure to select the library module and select these two tables. So I can show you what happens behind the scenes. By the way, this component already has a lot of server extractions here. In case you want to handle these files by yourself, do try these options here, available here. Just to summarize again, I've added a reference to this multiple file upload control, and in the library module, these two entities, and apply. Let's look in the database model to see what is happening. So after I added the reference, you can see the multiple file upload reactive library is available here. And if I bring it here, you will notice that anything that goes through the control of this file upload control already gets saved in this entity called binary file. This is where your files get stored. And it also has one more entity here, file metadata, which is, as the name suggests, is used for storing the metadata. Now, what we need to do in order to make this work with customer, imagine somebody's creating a new customer and customer has some documents, attachments that he wants to store. We will have to integrate or maybe link these two together, maybe with the metadata. So for that, what I will do, let me bring the customer table also here. Since there's multiple files, one customer can have multiple files in its record, like relationship wise. So for that, let me create a many-to-many kind of relationship by adding a intermediate table. It could be called customer file. And it just serves the purpose of having these two together. So customer and the file metadata. So with this, we can have multiple files in there. Just picture this this diagram and make changes as per your use case maybe, but this is very important. I mean, in this control, it's very straightforward. It stores the file automatically here in this table. But the more complex part is how do you create a reference of these files to the records that you have in application? Like in my case, customer. Customer will have attachments. So this is there. Next, we'll go back and start creating the screens. So see how we can implement this for the user. So as usual, I'll drag and drop the customer entity here, which is my main record. And the platform does the usual of building the listing and detail screen. There you go. Just to show you what it has, it's the customer listing. As I have only two attributes there, name and email, it shows up nice. And the detail screen here. Now, most of the work that we're going to do this will be here in the customer detail screen. So first thing is we're going to remove the placeholder. Second, after we added the reference for the file control, it's available here. And if you want to get this on your screen, you just have to drag and drop. Okay, so very simple. It's there in the screen. Now pay attention to this part where a few of the parameters of the properties of this control are very important to understand. For example, the file type, you can declare what kind of files you want to accept. Maybe I only want to accept PDF. You can see the examples there, the format. If you have images or PDF, any specific version, you can indicate there. You can declare the maximum file size or maybe max number of files, let's say 3. in my case. And then the events. Now these events are also mandatory. You must provide a way to delete. Let's say somebody clicks on this delete icon, or somebody clicks on all, which is clear all, this one, and whenever they're adding a new file, which is the list update. So for each of these things, you have to provide an implementation, and that's where you will hold a reference to your customer and the file metadata table. I'll show you how. So just pay attention to this part. I'm going to get rid of the error by creating a new client action. So this is the first one I'm adding for list update. So that's when a new file is added. So new client action. And here I'm going to create a local variable called uploaded file. And the type of this uploaded file local variable would be of file metadata. This one, which is our entity, if you remember, that's the one of the entities that the control creates by itself. Second, at the screen level here, I'm also going to create a local variable called uploaded files, which is a list of file metadata. So for that one, I will go to file metadata also here, but this one is a list of file metadata. So I'll click here and then make it a list. You can see here, it became a list of those things. So every time, my intention is every time a file is added here with this record, I will add this into my uploaded files here. So this is the list and this is the list item. It goes inside this, and the implementation you'll see here. Just to keep track of the number of files that we have, let's also create one more local field, number of files, and it can be a plain integer. So every time we add a new file, we just append the number to become +1. Next, let's use some of the assignment operator. You will notice that each of these these actions that you have here, the client action that you got from the control, gives you a file ID. That one you can use to assign a value here. So the first one is uploaded file dot ID will have the value of the file ID. But immediately you'll see some warning here because data types don't match. So for this one, what I will do is use the conversion operator. So in OutSystems, there are also built-in functions available, and there are some for data conversion. So in my case, this is a long integer, as it says here. I can use conversion for long integer to identifier, something like this, and I can then cut paste it inside the box. So the error is gone. Everything is okay. Cool. Next, we're going to append this list, this main list on the screen level with this new file. That is done by using the list append. You can call it here. Platform is giving suggestions. In case in your side it does not give you the suggestion, just search for it. List append. It's one of the system actions. And the list is the main one at the screen level. Uploaded files. Element is the one that we just provided the value here. Next, we are going to append the number of files. So that is number of files will become number of files plus 1. Great. Likewise, we'll go back and do the implementation for delete and delete all. So first, let's see the delete. I'll create a new client action. And in delete also, we can create a local variable. I think for delete, we can skip creating a local variable. My mistake. So in this case, we just have to remove that particular file from the uploaded files. How is that done? We can use maybe a list index first. So first we have to find the index of the particular file ID. So that's this one. And within this, we have to point to the list uploaded files, this one. And the condition would be the ID should be equals to the file ID here. Again, data conversion does not, data mapping is not working, so we'll do a conversion to convert this to identifier. So that is under here, long integer to identifier. Cut paste. Works. Once we get the index, now we can remove it from the list. So let's remove. The position is already taken from the step above. We just have to provide which list it is as this one. When we are removing an element from the list, let's reduce the number of files to number of files minus 1, something like this. Great. So the last one is delete all, which is this clear all when somebody calls it, which is here, files list, new client action. You'll notice that other functions were having a single file ID, but delete all files has a list of file IDs. So for that, we'll have to use a for each. So we delete everything in that list, and we'll run for everything that is available in the field list. And then we'll do the same thing as what we did for a single file delete, which is finding the index. Let's use this list index. Not in the field list, but this list, the main one. And the condition would be same as what we did earlier, ID equals to, this time let me do it upfront, the conversion part, data conversion, long integer to identifier, and it will be the file list ID, correct. Okay, and done. Once we find the index, then we can remove this element from our uploaded files list. Very removed. Once it's removed, make sure to reduce the number of files by -1. So that is something like this. Number of files -1. And then complete the loop. So it will go on, keep on going until all the fields, all the file IDs are removed from this. Let's see how we are doing on the screen. I think the errors are gone because we have provided all the mandatory values, the properties here, as well as we've implemented these handlers for adding a file, deleting or deleting all the files. Now I can, just to show you a reference of what is happening behind the scenes, let's display the number of files here somewhere. So it will show us how many files are there, and we can see behind the scenes what's happening. Next, we're going to modify the save logic here to implement the association, the linking part of these two together. As of now, they are not linked to the customer, this customer as of now. So for that, we'll modify the save logic. So imagine at this stage, the customer is created. What we need to do is maybe create a record corresponding to this customer file entity. So I'll create a local variable here called customer file. There you go. Make sure the data type is same as your entity. And then we'll use a for each. For each will run over uploaded files. So any files that we have uploaded so far into the file upload control, their IDs are here. We're just going to run a loop over this to add reference for each of this by using the customer file. So it goes like this. Records will be coming from this. And then we can provide an assignment where we'll say, and this is the mapping part. So this is where we'll use customer ID, will be the one that is just created, will be the output of this one. If you expand, you can see the suggestion. And then the second one would be the metadata ID, file metadata ID, which is also available under this uploaded files, as we've constantly been keeping track of that. That's just it. Okay, so it looks something like this. Customer goes here, and the file metadata ID is there. In case this is getting confusing, let me show you what I mean. So right now we are trying to create this record. So far we already have the files here. We had a local parameter to keep track of how many files we have. And then right now we are modifying the save logic to provide data for this particular table. So let's go back. So with this, the next step would be to create the customer file record, something like this, and it already picks up the input. If in your case does not, basically this is the input that we have to provide. And then go back to create all the associations. So we have done the upload part. Now what is remaining is if somebody comes and views the record. What I mean is if you come to the customer listing screen, if you click on the customer record, you will be brought to the customer detail page here. And then you will have to provide the previously uploaded files. So in this case, we have to fetch those files from the tables here. So for that, we'll use a mapping of customer file and file metadata to retrieve all the files. How is that done? So basically, let's go back to the screen. customer detail. So far we have all these elements. Let me close it to reduce the confusion. And then we'll create a new query. In this case, fetch data from database. And we are going to provide an identity for customer file. Oops, customer file, there you go. And let's also bring file metadata so we can have both records there. Platform helps to create the joins, which is good. But more importantly, I need to add a filter to it to only retrieve those files whose customer ID is equals to the customer ID we have on the page. Okay, so that's the filter which will only retrieve those files now. Next, we go back to the screen and we can decide of how we want to display it. Maybe we can display it in our table records, something like this. You can use the widget tree in case you want to do some manipulation, like in case you want to add this into a container. I think let's add it to container and bring it outside. Cool. And then in the container, we can also add a text so we know what exactly is there. It will serve the purpose of a label, so files. Then we can also provide data to it, and data can, because we've already built the query here, we can just retrieve data, anything from file metadata like file name, and how about created on. Okay, these two things are there. Since this is a table, we have some properties here. Let's see that. So if I go to table properties, I can remove the headers so it looks like as part of the form. And the other things that I can do with the style sheet, in case you want to modify the styles, you can do so. But more importantly, I want to put an if in the containers. For those, like in case for a particular customer record, there's no file. So in that case, we can enclose this in an if. And the if could be where this query does not return any data, which is count is greater than 0. Okay, so this whole section will only show up, this container will only show up if the value of the number of records written from that query is more than 0, which is this query. Otherwise, it will not show up. Let me just double make sure everything is okay. That should be okay. So we'll go ahead and publish the application to see how it works or does not work. There. Let's launch it. So this is the app. As of now, there's no customer. We're going to create a new customer. You can see that table is not appearing right now because the customer ID is not there, and because of that, there's no file also. Let's add a new customer, maybe John, and email, although they're not mandatory. And like a user uses, now is the time that he will upload a file. So far, he can even browse or drag and drop. Let me browse. Let's pick these few, open. And you can notice that number of files became 3, which are here. And at this point, the files are already there in your entity. What I mean is, if you go to your Service Studio, and at this stage also, if you are able to just right click and view data under file metadata, you can see those 3 files are uploaded. You can see here, actually more than, I've been testing, I've been loading a few more files here, but those 3 files are here, which is just now. And if I come back, like remember these IDs, 18, 17, and 16, these are the ones that I'm doing just now. If I go ahead and remove like the report.pdf, gone. So my delete function, delete one file is working. If I go back and look at the data again, file metadata, view data, I'm expecting one record to be gone. I think the 16 one is gone now. If you can see, that record is gone. If I go back again and clear all, delete all, let's see, and for refreshing, view data again, even those ones are also gone. Okay, so what we'll do in just wanted to show you how it happens behind the scenes. So let me upload those files again, maybe pick up something else so you can see the difference. Cool. And now if I save, it starts doing the association between customer and the table there. And if I open it now, so let's see, if I open it now, those files are appearing now. Just to double check, if I create a new record and don't do any upload, let's say another one for Nancy, we don't want to pull record for another customer. So if I click on Nancy, it does not show you those files from Joe. And just last thing, in case you're curious, if I go to customer file, you can see the association working. for those three files, which are here. You can see it's linked to the John Smith. So that's how you implement a multiple file upload in OutSystems by using. Lastly, in case you're wondering how to make those file links clickable on the customer detail screen, that is here. You can right click on any of the links, the first link, and link it to a new client action. This creates this link on click. You can right click and maybe add a input parameter of type file metadata. I'm just going to name it this, but pay attention to the data type. I just want to retain all the attribute values. So that's why I'm creating this, because later on when somebody is downloading, you might want to pre-create or have the same name as the file name here. Then if you go inside, let's get rid of this validation. We don't need that. And then run a server action to retrieve the binary of the file. So basically, if you go inside this action, let's rename it to get file, have some input and output parameter. Let's say input parameter is file ID, file meta ID. Okay, didn't get it, so I'll do it manually. So which is file identifier. This one. And second would be the upper parameter. When we get the binary, that will be the file binary. That should be binary, so it's okay. Then we're going to run a query on the binary file. And inside this query, we're going to put a filter to retrieve only that particular file whose ID, file ID, is equals to the value that we're getting, the file ID from the client action. That returns the binary. So we'll do an assignment for returning the value in the file binary field, which looks something like this. Thereafter, we'll go back to our client action. Here, we'll pass the value of the file. In this case, this is file meta.id, yes, which is, and just to show you, it's this one. That's why we created the input parameter on the client action. And then we're going to use the other fields for the download. The download, the content will come from this action, get file, which is here, and the name would come from the input parameter. So we have the same name plus .pdf. Although I'm hard coding it, you can also get this file type from MIME type, do some string manipulation, and you'll know what type of file it is. And that's it. There's one error here. I think it's on the screen, where now we have to pass on the input parameter file meta. So if I click on the link, you can see that it's asking for that thing, and that's the intention. And then we can provide the value of the current record. Let's publish it to test it out. There you go. So same screen here, the listing page. We had two records, John and Lindsay. If you go to John, I have those files here. And if I click on any of these files, it downloads the file. Let's try another one. It downloads, and the file name is similar, because I'm getting it from the file name. Thanks for watching.